In the heart of the ancient Greek city of Ephesus, amid the bustling market and grand architecture, there lived a man whose thoughts and ideas would help shape the course of Western philosophy for centuries to come. Heraclitus was often seen walking along the shores of the nearby river, deep in contemplation. His flowing robes and unkempt hair gave him the appearance of a man detached from worldly concerns, and in many ways he was. Heraclitus was born into a wealthy family, heir to a thriving trade business, but from a young age he showed little interest in the material pursuits that consumed his family. Instead, he turned his attention to the world of ideas. He was a voracious reader, devouring the works of the great thinkers who came before him, but it was during one of his solitary walks by the river that he had an epiphany that would set him on his path to becoming a philosopher. As he watched the river flow, he realized that everything in the world was in a state of constant change. The water in the river was never the same from one moment to the next, and yet it remained the same river. He understood that change was not the exception but the rule, the very essence of existence. This revelation shook him to his core and became the foundation of his philosophy. Word of Heraclitus and conventional thinking began to spread throughout Ephesus. Some were intrigued by his ideas, while others dismissed him as a madman. But Heraclitus paid little attention to his critics. He continued his solitary walks by the river, refining his philosophy and recording his thoughts in a series of cryptic writings. One of Heraclitus' most famous sayings was, "You cannot step into the same river twice." It was a statement that captured the essence of his philosophy. For him, the river symbolized the ever-changing nature of reality. To step into the river once was to experience it in one state, but to step into it again was to encounter an entirely different river. The world, he believed, was in a constant state of flux, and those who failed to recognize this fundamental truth were living in ignorance. Heraclitus' ideas, however, did not sit well with everyone. Among his most vocal critics was Parmenides, a philosopher who believed in the unchanging nature of reality. He argued that Heraclitus' emphasis on change was misguided and that true knowledge could only come from understanding the eternal and unchanging truths of the universe. The debates between Heraclitus and Parmenides became legendary in Ephesus. They would often meet in the marketplace, surrounded by a crowd of eager spectators, and engage in fierce intellectual battles. Heraclitus' style of argumentation was as cryptic as his writings, filled with paradoxes and riddles that left his opponents scratching their heads. Despite their differences, both philosophers respected each other's intellect and dedication to the pursuit of truth. As Heraclitus continued to develop his philosophy, he began to explore the idea of the unity of opposites. He believed that seemingly contradictory forces such as hot and cold, day and night, and life and death were not separate but interconnected aspects of a larger whole. This concept challenged the traditional dualistic thinking of his time and suggested that the world was a complex and harmonious system. One day, as Heraclitus was deep in thought by the river, he was approached by a young man named Zenon. Zenon had heard of Heraclitus' wisdom and traveled from a distant city to seek his guidance. He asked Heraclitus how one could find meaning and purpose in a world that was constantly changing. Heraclitus smiled and replied, "Embrace the change. It is in the very nature of the universe. Seek not to hold on to the past or resist the currents of change, but learn to flow with them. In change, you will find the wisdom and beauty of existence." Zenon was profoundly moved by Heraclitus' words and became his devoted student. Together, they delved deeper into the philosophy of change and unity of opposites, exploring the profound implications of these ideas on human life and society. So, as the years passed, Heraclitus' health began to decline. His once vigorous body became frail, and he was plagued by various ailments. At this time, Heraclitus had become a bit of a hermit and took matters into his own hands when doctors couldn't cure his swollen body caused by a condition called dropsy, where excess water builds up in the soft tissues. Here is where the stories about his death differ. One version says he buried himself in a pile of manure inside a cowshed, thinking the warmth from the decaying manure would make the extra fluid in his body evaporate. Another version claims he covered himself with cow dung and then tried to dry himself in the sun. No matter which story you believe, these results didn't turn out well. There's even a third version where he tried to change his mind, but he got stuck in the dung and ended up being eaten by dogs. So, Heraclitus passed away, but his ideas lived on. He became synonymous with the pursuit of truth and the embrace of change. His legacy illuminated the path to understanding the ever-changing nature of the universe and the wisdom that could be found in its constant flow.